there are lots of benefits. Things that bring benefits also bring challenges. One of the things that bring benefits is the fact that we've got a major new financial company going to relocate here, a major departmental store going to locate around here. Does the council spend all of its time courting the big players, the big employers, and forgetting local homegrown businesses?
That's part of the problem.
Not really. When you look at this, a question to Claire.
I don't know. I mean, from my interface, and this is not wishing to be a negative, my interface with the council isn't a positive experience, and there's never been anything that said to me, how can we make your business better? How can we, the rates are set by the government, but they have become a massive part of our income. We have to, we're a small business, and so, it's almost sometimes it's 10% of what we sell in a day to put the money into the till to pay the rates. So yes, I think it's great that you get new businesses in. There can be a debate about whether John Lewis at French Cross is the right place for it to be, but that's probably another question. But I think from a small business point of view, there's very little that I see from the council that is directed at small businesses. A couple of years ago, there used to be a city centre manager. At least there was somebody who seemed to have some overall view of what was going on. And he's no longer there. Obviously, that's part of probably cutbacks. But I just think a mindset that says, what can we do to help rather than...
Ian used to be a small businessman.
Yes, and I think it's interesting that the current group. I mean, there's not many of them have actually risked any of their own money in running the business, as I have. And the situation is that it's up to us to facilitate as a council, to facilitate. People want to come here because it's a successful city, and that's why John Lewis and the rest want to come here. And that's fine. I've got no problem with that. Where I have a problem with is that we need to facilitate as much as we facilitate those big boys and rightly so. We have to facilitate the small business people. Now, the point is that coming into York, to park in York, is costing an absolute fortune. And, you've got to balance that. And there's people, the trends are that we'll go out to an out-of-town shopping centre, we'll park outside and we'll go in. And if I voted against that, my wife would kill me, which she did actually. But the situation is that that's what people want these days, and you've got to go with those trends. Might be unfortunate, but it's not something that we can change. But the small businesses in this city, there used to be far more than there are now. And they've been edged out for all sorts of reasons. And we need to look after those small businesses. It's the same as the market. I have a problem with the market because I don't think the market traders have done themselves any good over the years. But, the market is a jewel in York's Crown, or it should be. We should be encouraging ways to move that market forward. And the traders that come in there, because I think the offer at the moment is not great. But to actually put up parking charges at every year and use it as a cash cow puts people off, and that's not good. So they do need help. The rates, I agree with you as far as the rates are concerned.
Bringing down bus fares as well. We're bringing down bus fares as well.
Bus fares? Well, yeah, I mean, the situation with bus fares, use it to lose it, and when it comes to bus fares, it becomes subsidies. But at the end of the day, whilst it's very good to get people cycling, and as a keen cyclist, I use my bike on a Saturday. But the situation, not everybody wants to go on the bike. Not everybody wants to use a bus. They want to get in the car. Now, it may well be that you penalise them by charging the tax on fuel and from a national perspective, and charging, massive fees to come in and park your car. But to use it as a cash cow is wrong. And the situation as far as bus fares are concerned, we could have lots of buses, but you know as well as I do, Andy, that buses, it's feast or famine. It's like taxis. You need them at midnight on a taxis. You need midnight on a Saturday night, but for much of the rest of the time they're lying idle. And buses are the same. You need to get people to work and home from work, but during the day the big buses are running around York and they're virtually empty. And it's not all to do with bus fares, because many people like myself have bus passes. And I don't use them because they're not, a lot of the time they're not convenient, especially when you want to go from A to B to C to D.
Okay, so you have a council leader, you're flirting with the bigger companies and ignoring and making life difficult for those more local. Is that fair?
think when I initially became council leader, my focus was about trying to attract businesses and jobs into York. And then I realised very quickly that actually you get far more sustainable and larger economic growth by supporting existing businesses to expand and supporting startups than you do getting those jobs in. And that's where our focus has shifted. If you look at the unemployment rate that was issued today, and just a couple of hours ago, the Centre for Cities report came out saying we're second lowest unemployment rate in any city in the country. It shows that actually the jobs that aren't even really here yet at Hiscox, or the jobs that John Lewis is bringing on stream, that are not even showing in those figures. And actually that unemployment rate going down is actually because of increase of existing jobs. Now, there is an issue about small to medium enterprises and the support that they're given. I mean, for a start, a lot of retailers, and I know retail is only one sector of that, a lot of the outgoings are controlled by the rents, which the council doesn't control, and I think personally the rents are too high. But when I speak to landlords, they say you have to have ever-increasing rents, because if you don't, then it shows that your city is failing. And I think that puts a lot of strain on new startups and on existing businesses. On the rates issue, I think there's a wider question about resources to local government to be able to support business, because I would like us to have our fair share of business rates. We collect more business rates than we actually get to be able to keep. We give 40 million pounds of business rates to London that we don't get back. Now, why can't I use that money to lower your business rates? That would really help you, but I can't. And yet Scotland, which has a population the same as Yorkshire and Humber, and Yorkshire and Humber's got an economy double the size of Wales, can. New start-up businesses in Scotland, such as a cafe or a deli or whatever, they are allowed 1 year's free business rates. And I don't think that's a fair allocation. And Ian's right about car parking charges. I think it's too expensive. The difficulty is that successive council administrations have seen it as a way to be able to get money into transport to support buses, admittedly sometimes through subsidies, like what Andy's saying. And actually, therefore, councils rely too much on that car parking income. But when 60% of our income comes from council tax, 40% comes from the government, and that 40% is being cut 45%, simply lowering car parking charges means something else has to be cut off. And what is that?
Okay, go.
I don't know about whether individual companies that the council's been talking to, whether that's right or wrong or not. I've got concerns about Primark, which I've spoken just today with James about, and I think he shares some of those concerns, as lots of us would, because of very high profile stuff that's been in the media about practice back in, I don't know if it's India or Pakistan, about where the clothes are made. I suppose you might call me an idealist, but I would go back and say it shouldn't really just be about numbers of jobs. Jobs are really to do two things, I think. They're a livelihood, to get some money so that you can pay your rent, to buy your food. But they also should be about meaningful work, contribution to society. So I worry that we have more and more and more mind-numbingly boring retail, shelf stacking and call centre type jobs across the country, not just in York.
My
So-
wife's working in retail.
Well, that may well be the case, and I'm not putting a blanket across all of retail. I've worked in it myself as well. But generally speaking, I think there are more and more of the kinds of jobs where we treat people like drones rather than like individuals that want to develop some kind of craft and skill and contribute their knowledge and expertise and be an individual within the world. And I think the council does have a role in terms of jobs within the city. I would like to see more of that aspirational stuff about the types of work and the types of sectors and things in York. You know, there's great stuff in York, the heritage sector, obviously the chocolate industry, which is a great craft in itself. I would like to see more of that.
Okay, we've got your second headline there for tomorrow's paper, and that is the council leader now aspires to become a shopkeeper. Okay, so I have to make the choice with that there. There's a question from the audience, from Tony Martin. I think probably we'll only need one or two answers to it, because it's a fairly specific question, but it does tie in with what you were saying about getting into the city of York, but in a
It's
different way.
unfair to make it specific, because it is a specific right. Anybody saw the letter in the press the other day. You want me to stand by it?
Please, if you just, so you can be seen on the camera, and then...
Yes, I mean, it's to do with communication. I'm Secretary of Waterway March, the IWA and Waterways Association, and York's always had very, very minimal facilities for boaters visiting York, and more since I've lived here, and I've been involved with the IWA for 10 years actively, is that visiting visitors to York, and a lot of people now live on boats because of the economy, visitors to York all year round, Merrygate Landing and so on. There are problems obviously with river flooding and that, we're not going to touch on that, is that in its infinite wisdom, and I'm wondering about the wisdom because I've been on the Queen's Court inquiry as an observer from the local planning panel, and some of the criteria set against that establishment have been set against this other establishment.
You made a question fairly straight.
It would never have happened in the first place. They were very basic and it's historic to the old British waterways facilities in York. You could fill your tank with water, you could empty your loom, you could go to the loom and leave rubbish. And when 6 years ago, the people doing that development, the pub, restaurant, which I believe is going to go by the end of this month, went to that planning meeting, the Southwest Planning Panel, and the stipulations very clearly stated that they have to reinstate those facilities.
Right.
That was agreed to. They have put temporary facilities in, which are now gone. We have talked to their partners, which is the New York Museum and Galleries Trust.
Can I ask you to sort of just focus the question then, please?
We talked to developers. I've been doing this over a 3-week period at all sorts of levels. We do need some reassurance, and voters are coming up to the Boat Festival at Watford at the end of July.
Okay.
That we have absolutely no reassurance at all that this is going to be reinstated.
Well, let's see if we can get it. Okay. The question is then, will there be a commitment to reinstalling facilities?
The commitment's there in writing, but nothing on the plan.
Okay.
This actually reflects
That's great, thank you.
reflects a wider problem about the detail on things, planning issues and other facilities the council provides, being able to ensure that we don't lose the wood for the trees, if you sort of mean. When there are big developments happening, yes, we want them to happen, we want to see them in place, but we do need to make sure that some of the little detail which can make a really big difference to people's everyday lives, whether it's a local business or where somebody lives, we've got to look after that as well as the big picture.
I think the argument is very clearly expressed. I'm very interested in.
I think it's quite simple, really, because I sat on that planning application, and the situation is quite simply that if it's a condition of the planning that those facilities are left there, then it's up to everyone concerned to make sure that they are. And if the place isn't even open yet. But the thing is, if it's not, then it becomes an enforcement issue. And if it's a condition, it has to be adhered to. If it's not, it needs to be sorted.
Anything you want to add?
Well, I don't know the specific case, but I'm happy to look into it. I've been interested in the waterways for some time. I mean, about a year ago, I saw a map of the waterways in terms of who owned what bit of water. I found it fascinating that planning law is completely different on water than it is on land. And there's so much more we can do. We could have permanent moorings for more boat homes. We could have more of temporary moorings for regards to business, as you say. On the specific case, I will look into it. I'm still chasing up another enforcement notice though, about the takeaway at the end of Bridge Street over their signage, which has been going through courts for some time, but I'll definitely look into it.
Okay, not everybody. I hope that was helpful. Not everybody knows the technicalities about that particular case.